from the shadows of the National Palace to the muddy trenches of politics. This is L.A. Pocilga, the pigpen of dirty politics. Greetings,
my little piggies. Welcome to another episode of this filthy corner where we roll around in the truth until it shines or until it stinks, whichever comes first. I'm your untrustworthy pig, the only one who has no price because nobody wants me even for free. Louis Berman here in the pigsty, the pigpen of politics. You already know we don't mess around with half measures or perfumed press releases. If you're expecting a serious, solemn analysis with words you don't understand but sound intellectually valuable, this isn't the place. Go watch another channel. There are plenty of those. Here we come to dig out the mud with a shovel, to curse, and to say things the way they're said in the marketplace, at a gathering of friends over a few beers. So, having said that, today the pigsty is celebrating, because the news of the day isn't that the dollar is going up or that the subway broke down again, but that our dear and always consistent Citlaly Hernández, that exotic beauty, has decided that the women's secretariat was, let's say, too small for her. Or maybe she simply received orders from a faraway place as a strategy for 2027. On the other hand, another person decided that the Senate was already too tight for her and decided to request an indefinite leave, turning to the president. Was pregnancy the pretext? It was none other than Andrea Chávez. Yes, the one with Grandpa Monster, the one with the giraffe, the one with the private jet, the one with the labeled ambulances. Well, that one, but the reality is that she's preparing her illegal campaign for the governorship of Chihuahua. We'll see that in detail later. And what about the main course, my friends? Meanwhile, up there in the United States, justice seems to be getting its fiber for breakfast and is moving forward steadily. Here in the land of sovereignty, the prosecutor's office has given Apostle Naason Joaquin Garcia the most expensive beauty treatment in the world. A refreshing cover-up. Bring out the disinfectant because we're about to sink into the filth that only our political swamp can produce. Ready to wallow in the filth. Because if there's one thing we have plenty of in this blessed country, it's good old mud. The kind that stains and can't be removed even with industrial bleach. Let's get started. Stop the presses and hide the sweetbread. It turns out that the brand new Secretary for Women has submitted her resignation. Yes, my little piggies. We were just learning how to pronounce the name of the new position, and Comrade Citla is already packing her bags. The official reason is supposedly to strengthen the movement from the grassroots. That convenient euphemism when you realize the ship has more holes than Swiss cheese, right? Citlaly, that figure who has spent more time in the party than a mite on an old mattress. She seems to have discovered that institutional reality is much more boring than barricade rhetoric. Is she leaving the women's secretariat? Just when things were getting interesting, Presi Chávez herself, during her conference in Gaña Pendejos, announced the departure of the woman in question. She even said that when she received the resignation, she was so shocked she almost fell over backward. Since they love to pull this kind of nonsense, listen to the lady.
I'm taking this opportunity to share some news. Yesterday, Citlaly resigned from the Women's Secretariat. She said she's going to the party to help Morena. I understand that in 2024 she helped coordinate the whole alliance process. I understand Luisa Maria asked if she could help her or the executive committee with this issue. And so I think they're going to give her a special appointment so she can carry out these tasks. I think Citlaly is exceptional. I always have the best opinion of Citla. She is a brilliant, hardworking young woman. In this year and a half, she distributed 25 million women's rights booklets. Was the Constitution changed? She worked with groups helping victims. I think she reached 500 or more safe centers. The Weavers of the Homeland Network is also exceptional. She is a woman of conviction, honesty, and hard work. Yesterday, when she visited, they told me Citlaly wanted to see me. Citla said she wanted to give me her resignation, which surprised me. She said she talked to Luisa Maria and wants to help the party.
What does Citlaly leave us? A trail of retweets, promises of state-sponsored sisterhood, and the certainty that in the 4T cabinet positions don't really matter. They last only until a better opportunity comes along, or so the gossips say. Mine included, and mine is even nastier than her exit. It responds to the need for electoral maneuvering because, of course, who needs public policies to protect women? When you could be working the districts to make sure the maroon color keeps covering the country. Priorities, my friends, priorities. Meanwhile, shelters for women are still waiting for the budget to come through. Like a godsend, our heroine prefers to return to her ecosystem where she feels right at home. The muck of partisan politics. There, you don't have to deliver results, you just have to pretend you're winning in the polls, stir up trouble, and get into fights if necessary. And that's something Jasmine, Jacinta, Hippo are really good at, especially Jacinta. Only those who have seen the Disney fantasy movie will understand that. I'll leave it as homework for you. What happened with Citlaly is just a symptom of a bigger disease in this transformation government, an allergy to desk work. They love the presidential sash, the applause at rallies, and the "it's an honor," but when it's time to review the official Gazette of the Federation, they break out in hives. Next up is the Secretary for Women. They'll probably put in another figure whose main virtue is knowing how to say "yes, Madam President" in 2 languages, Spanish and nonsense, and having a record of inefficiency worthy of an Olympic medal. So, what do you say, wise people? While Citlaly settles back into her partisan power niche, can the women of this country sleep peacefully or not? At the end of the day, partisan politics? Mexican politics? That theater of the absurd where the actors change costumes halfway through the play but the script stays the same. Promise until you get what you want, and once you have it, forget what you promised. Resignation is not a retreat, it's a tactical repositioning, as the payroll intellectuals would say. In my hometown, we call that running away when the ship starts needing someone to do the dirty work on the way to the elections. And now let's talk about another one who leaves her seat in the Senate, the crusader of the sugar baby. Heroism or electoral crime? It turns out that our brand new senator, well, now senator on paid vacation, Andrea Chavez, has decided that the Senate is too small for her ego. Chihuahua-sized with that humility that characterizes her and fits perfectly in a private jet, she has requested leave, according to the official version, due to her pregnancy. But the reality is this: to embark on the heroic mission of exterminating, annihilating, and burying the 100 years of the Prion in her home state. Said by herself in a spot she posted on her social media, in which, by the way, my drinking buddy appears, the one and only Luis Berman. Here's a short clip so you can see how handsome the guy looks.
The smear campaign that Andrea Chavez has suffered for years, paid for with public money from all the people of Chihuahua, is monstrous, but if she manages to withstand it, she will be unstoppable.
Andrea Chavez, even if you laugh at her. Andrea Chavez.
Andrea Chavez, Andrea Chavez.
Andrea Chavez.
Andrea Chavez. Who is Andrea Chavez?
Andrea Chavez is one of the most controversial, most talked about, and most powerful Mexican politicians. How touching.
I almost shed a tear. Then I remembered it's just the sweat of cynicism coming from the screen. It's the art of living in a perpetual campaign. The narrative is exquisite. She says she's going to end a century of darkness. What she doesn't mention is that to bring light to Chihuahua, she seems willing to skip over that small and annoying pebble in her shoe called electoral law. Various analysts who still have their sight and haven't been blessed by government ad money are already raising the alarm. Why? Because what the lady calls a call from the people, in the Penal Code and in the National Electoral Institute's rules, it is rather translated as premature campaign activities and use of resources for electoral purposes. License to transform or a license to break the law. While she wraps herself in the flag of social justice, the stench of election-related crime is so strong that it's already made the neighbors dizzy. It's not just about requesting leave, it's the deployment of a machine that seems to be greased with the hopes of those who have the least, but operated with the cunning of those who want the most. Power. Of course, hate speech as a strategy. Her obsession with the Prion is almost romantic. If they didn't exist, she'd invent them just to have something to discuss, since Chihuahua is still waiting for real legislative proposals, and it may as well stay seated. The campaign isn't a campaign. According to her, she'll be doing informational tours. Sure, and I'm a beautiful, slender crystal swan. We all know those tours are the 4T's favorite euphemism. It's a way of saying, I'm going to plaster my face on every wall before the law allows me to, legally. What we're seeing is the basic manual of modern opportunism, using the Senate platform as a personal springboard, playing the victim in response to any criticism, labeling it as a gender-based attack, and finally throwing herself into the legal void, hoping that the cloak of partisan impunity will catch her before she hits legal ground. The line between being a public official and being an electoral criminal is as thin as the coherence of her speeches. But of course, in the pigsty of politics, laws are like traffic lights in Mexico City, just decorative suggestions. Anyway, now let's get to the main course. New York condemns, Mexico forgives, and Morena goes along with it. This is the gospel according to impunity, when Morena becomes the light of the world and of money. Miracle, brothers, miracle in the fourth transformation. It turns out that in this country, where justice is slower than a turtle with rheumatism, we've witnessed one of those legal acrobatics you wouldn't even see at Cirque du Soleil. Look at that, how curious, my little political piggies. In 2022, the honorable leader of La Luz del Mundo, Apostle Naason Joaquin Garcia, was sentenced in California to 16 years for abuses that would make the devil himself blush. And as if that weren't enough, in 2025 he got hit with another combo in New York for organized crime, human trafficking, and money laundering. Quite the resume. Any ordinary person would be rotting away in a 3x3 cell. But Naason has something we don't. Friends in the highest circles of the Guinda pigsty. In Mexico, the Attorney General's office, that autonomous and trustworthy institution, decided that the charges of trafficking and organized crime against the religious leader did not meet the legal threshold. Of course, here the laws are like clown pants, too big for some and they just fall off others. It didn't matter that the Financial Intelligence Unit, the FIU, had frozen more than 300 million pesos. 300 million, my little piggies. And who do you think signed this little gem of a resolution? Well, none other than Mrs. Ernestina Godoy, the brand new head of the prosecutor's office after Gertz Manero left. What an incredibly institutional coincidence, right? Rumor has it, both from the gossips and the well-informed, that this smells like a payoff for electoral favors. Because let's be honest, La Luz del Mundo doesn't just move souls, it moves money and votes. And in the Mexican political market, a vote is worth more than a clean conscience. But don't think this is just about one person. The pigsty is full of people who have defended the apostle tooth and nail. We have the Morena senator, Emmanuel Reyes Carmona. He won't stop talking about the presumption of innocence. How sweet. He almost makes me cry, but from laughter. Or the former legislator Hamlet Garcia Almaguer, who until 2024 referred to Naason as an innocent and honorable man. If that's what it means to be honorable, then I'm a sober altar boy. Do you remember that concert at the Palacio de Bellas Artes in 2019? Yes, the one where Martí, Batres, and Cuervo strutted around while paying tribute to a guy who, just weeks later, would fall into the hands of American justice. It was a preview of what we would see later, the perfect fusion between the secular state and the church of big money. And in this country, reality is stranger than fiction. The influence of the organization has already reached the courts of Jalisco after the 2025 elections. Profiles linked to the congregation, such as Elsa Aguilar and Madian Sinai, are already serving as judge and magistrate, respectively. Congratulations, Mexico. Now, justice is not only blind, but it also seems to go to church on Sundays and vote for the 4T. Well, that's enough stress for today. Otherwise, my blood sugar goes up and no health budget can save me. Who are you trying to fool, Claudia? Please don't tell me you were shocked when Citlaly resigned. Even you don't believe that. The truth is that you asked her to go to Morena so she could go patch things up. The alliances that Luisa Maria Alcalde left, all unraveled, made the switch, while the other one is on her way out. And look, truth be told, Citlaly Hernández did absolutely nothing for the women of this country. Nothing. Not a word about the femicides, not a glance at the mothers searching for their disappeared relatives. But of course, she never lacked a big salary, and she won't lack it in the future either. Andrea Chávez wants to make history, and she'll probably do it, but not by getting rid of the Prian, rather by proving that you can have more nerve than the Senate's marble. While equity in the race is being trampled on, Chihuahua deserves more than a social media messiah. With an allergy to legality, the mud is up to our necks. Meanwhile, the victims, who have the audacity to seek justice in a country of impunity, feel re-victimized. In a system where sweeping things under the rug is the national sport, and where being the leader of a sect with political connections is better than having major medical insurance, that's just another day at the office. Another day in this pigsty where the supposedly pure politicians embrace the apostles of abuse, as long as the tithe is for elections. The same. They're not worse at all, notice the difference, even if it hurts. The corrupt Peña Nieto imprisoned 6 governors from his own party. He fired the head of Conagua for using the helicopter as a taxi and the head of Profeco because his daughter acted arrogantly in a restaurant. The honest ones from the 4T, the Macaspano donkey, and the welfare maid Claudia, with their supposed moral authority, they covered up for a cabinet secretary whose son used the embassy in the United Kingdom as a luxury hotel. And all paid with your taxes. Norona's son became rich overnight. A miracle of the 4th transformation, among so many other filthy things these bastards force on us. These people who claim they're not the same don't even lay a finger on the lowliest of their officials, even if they're involved in violations, influence peddling, or embezzlement. It's the big narrative scam. The greatest success of the 4th transformation has been selling you the story that everything was worse before. When reality slaps them in the face every day, the conclusion is clear. Besides being useless in Morena, the only thing they confirm is that they didn't hate the privileges of those before, they hated not having them themselves. I hope you enjoyed this dip in the mud. Take care of yourselves if you can. And if you see electoral justice around, tell her they're looking for her in Chihuahua, although I doubt they'll let her through at the transformation customs. Signing off from this mud pit, your not-so-trusty and ever-acerbic commentator, Luis Berman. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell, and share this crappy video. I'll read your comments. Goodbye.
This is L.A. Pocilga, the pigpen of politics with Luis Berman.